What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. So in today's video we got some shocking news that I want to bring you, and I'm going to address that in just a second. First off, I just hope you are having an incredible weekend and your Sunday is going extremely well also. So let's jump into what we are going to discuss in today's video. First, there are major changes to the $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill. We are going to address why the $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill is actually going to get harder to pass. I'll address that in a minute. We got information on how Social Security recipients are being dismissed. They're simply being dismissed for the time being because of higher inflation and the cost of living adjustment that could happen in 2022. Yes, in 5 months. We also got more updates on the fourth stimulus check and why this potentially will not happen. I want to break this down. This is a little bit more shocking news to some, but this is something that I think all of us have been expecting for some time. So want to address that. We are also going to talk about what is going on with the eviction moratorium that is going to expire in less than 13 days. The White House has plans for this, so I want to address that. And lastly, we will go over why unemployment numbers keep going up and why this is essentially nothing to really worry about. However, some experts say this is not good news. Now, let's get into the update. Let's get into the details of the update for sure. Today, Senator Rob Portman, who's a Republican, he stated that the Irs Enforcement Proposal from Democrats to provide more funding to the IRS so that they can go after those tax cheats. Well, this has essentially been dropped. This is now off the table from the bipartisan infrastructure package. Some say this is good news. What I can tell you is that he stated once Republicans knew that this was going to be included in the budget reconciliation bill as well, that is when they decided there's no way they would support additional funding to the IRS in their bill also. So get this, Democrats want to put some funding for the IRS in the bipartisan bill, and they want to put some funding for the IRS in the budget reconciliation bill also. But here's what he said. He said once Republicans knew that, there's no way they're going to support that. He also stated that counting the same funding twice doesn't work financially. Yes, you cannot account for, let's say, $1 trillion in additional funding over 10 years from the IRS in the bipartisan bill, and you can't use that same exact funding for the budget reconciliation, but you give them more money. It doesn't work. So that was actually very interesting. I thought that was somewhat eye-opening that this is something that was being considered. So some people saw that. Some Democrats even saw that and questioned that. And I think that's where things really started to ramp up, and that's one of the reasons why this was essentially pulled. Now, according to reports over this past week, this was considered to be pulled. I think it was Thursday, and Friday it was really on the fence. But yet over the weekend, after senators discussed it, they ultimately pulled it because there was no way they were coming to an agreement and getting 10 Republican votes on top of the 50 from Democrats as well. So we'll see what happens there. But as of right now, when Senator Portman was asked, how is this bill going to be paid for? Well, Senator Portman said that this is what the continued discussions are about. That this is why lawmakers have been working over the weekend, worked all last week, and will most likely continue to work over this coming week to try to get a deal done. The problem is, though, and this is a big problem, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, he wants to see this bill come to a floor vote on Wednesday. He doesn't want to hold up this. He wants to keep this moving forward. If they can vote on this on Wednesday, pass it through the Senate, kick it over to the House, hopefully the Senate, and specifically President Biden and Senator Schumer, can work with Nancy Pelosi and try to get her away from the progressives to try to get her to push this bill onto the floor of the House as well. That's at least their expectations according to multiple reports. However, Nancy Pelosi is going to stick by the progressives in the House because she understands that they are going to vote together. And if they do not support something, or they are pushed to something that they do not want to do, for example, vote on a bipartisan bill when the Senate hasn't already passed the budget reconciliation bill, if these things don't come together in tandem to the House, well, what we know is progressives are not going to vote for it, and they will simply tank this entire package. So this is something that Nancy Pelosi has to be very cautious of, and according to reports, this is something that she is aware is going on. So we will see what happens there. Now, the other problem is that the senators, and not just Democrats or Republicans, but all senators want to see the legislative text of this bipartisan bill. However, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is almost asking for someone's support before they've ever read the bill. And this was an issue, that we saw last year as well. In the second and third stimulus packages, well, the ones that contained a second and third stimulus check, lawmakers were asked multiple times to support the bill and at that time, I guess the first time it was Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, but then it turned into Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. Well, they were being continued to ask, hey, can you support this bill? But yet at the same time, there was no bill to support. It wasn't written at that time, so there was multiple issues there. And that's exactly what's happening again. So some lawmakers are saying they're continuing to be very frustrated that this is turning into a constant thing. They thought this was a one-time thing. All right, I didn't read the bill, no problem, I'll pass it just because I know the American people need the money, right? That was through the CARES Act. That was over a year ago. Well, that same scenario keeps on happening, and many lawmakers are becoming very frustrated because of it. Now, one thing we do know regarding the infrastructure packages is Medicare will be included in the $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill. The $1.2 trillion bipartisan bill, this still has a lot of work to be done on it. Some say the hardest part is going to be regarding funding. However, some say if we can't get the funding up, then maybe just pass a smaller bill. That's what some are discussing, and that is an option at this point. However, according to multiple reports, Democrats don't want to pass a smaller bill, because if they pass a smaller bill, that means their budget reconciliation bill will have to be even larger. And if it is larger, there's a chance it might not be fully funded either. And if that's the case, well, Senator Joe Manchin might not support it, and that's where they could lose a lot of this additional legislation. So we'll see what happens there. Now, according to Senator Bernie Sanders, I want to bring this up because this has a lot to do with the funding. This has a lot to do with potentially a fourth stimulus check. Senator Manchin, according to Bernie Sanders, he's saying that Senator Joe Manchin shouldn't be worried about funding the entire bill because they will both pay for themselves. These will provide more revenue throughout the United States. It will come back. It's going to be an investment into our economy and our country. We did hear from Senator Rob Portman, and he said this was an investment. This is not something that we're going to see, the money goes out in, 1 year and it's just gone. The money is most likely going to go out and flow the most through year 5 through year 10. That's when the money's really going to go out. So essentially, the money's kind of just sitting there, especially if it comes to infrastructure. But in regards to direct payments, that's what the American people will see immediately. The problem is there is a very small percentage of these bills that goes for direct payments to the American people. And that's what some progressives are saying is a big issue. And that's what they can't support. But according to Senator Rob Portman, he is saying that this is a big investment. We're going to see the rewards. We're going to reap the rewards of this investment in year 50, 60, and even in year 70. So it's something that is going to last for decades, not just for a handful of years. But Senator Bernie Sanders says that Senator Joe Manchin shouldn't be worried about this because the bills will pay for themselves. We don't have to fully fund these. However, when he says this is also going to work and this is what we need to do, this has some experts question the possibility of a fourth stimulus check. And here's the reason why. Even though many say a fourth stimulus check is needed, even though many economists believe a fourth stimulus check would do a lot of good, not only to the American people, but to the economy as well, what we are hearing is they also worry that this would be one of the first pieces of legislation that would not provide a high return on investment like some other pieces. So because it doesn't have a higher return on investment, okay, because of this, okay, the ROI of this is just not great. And so some economists believe if something is to be pulled out, chances are it would be a fourth stimulus check, which is one of the reasons why, according to progressives, they're not pushing to get the fourth stimulus check included into the infrastructure package until possibly the very last minute. I said this earlier on this week. Now, if you haven't had a chance to watch some of my previous videos, okay, make sure you do yourself a favor. First off, hit that like button if you enjoy this update, and also consider subscribing so that you never miss one of my updates. So, one thing I just want to be clear on. Am I saying a fourth stimulus check is already in this package? No, absolutely not. It's not included. It's not in there. Because progressives, according to multiple reports, are waiting until the last minute. Democrats aren't asking for stimulus because that was supposed to be in the American Rescue Plan. They don't want to mix them. Well, progressives, they're not asking for another stimulus check because they don't feel it's needed. And that's not something that they're going to get behind, is giving more money to the American people. Well, when it comes to businesses, they would do that, but not directly to the American people. But here's what somebody asked earlier on today, is what is the difference? And this wasn't here on my channel, this was on one of the media outlets, it was in the comments. Somebody asked, what is the difference between a stimulus check or a higher earned income tax credit? Why would a higher earned income tax credit, or why would a child tax credit be more important than a stimulus check, which would actually go to more people? Well, honestly, don't ask me, I don't know. I don't know, because really there's not much of a difference. There's not much of a difference between a higher earned income tax credit compared to a stimulus check. Now, a stimulus check versus a monthly payment towards the child tax credit advance, now those are different. If a stimulus check was monthly, okay, then no, it's essentially be the exact same thing. But being the child tax credit is a monthly payment, that's where the child tax credit actually is more of a priority to lawmakers than the stimulus check. Okay, so I just thought that was interesting. Somebody brought that up, and I just wanted to bring that up to you guys as well, because I thought that was kind of eye-opening. That was somewhat shocking. Is that why are lawmakers prioritizing this earned income tax credit and maybe increasing it as opposed to even discussing stimulus checks? There's really no difference. There's honestly no difference. So we'll see. Now, one thing I just want to bring up when it comes to passing this large $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill is something that Senator Lindsey Graham said earlier on today. And this is actually throwing a Democrat move back in the face of Democrats. Okay? So Lindsey Graham, who's a Republican, he actually has an idea of how to block a $3.5 trillion infrastructure package. And he had this to say, and I quote, "If for some reason they pass the budget resolution to bring that $3.5 trillion bill to the floor of the United States Senate, you gotta have a quorum to pass a bill in the Senate. I would leave before I'd let that happen. So, to my Republican colleagues, we may learn something from our Democratic friends in Texas when it comes to avoiding a $3.5 trillion tax and spend package. Leave town." That was his exact statement. Now, and the reason why I think this is pretty shocking is because he's simply putting his plan out there. Hey, if we want to block this, because you got to have a quorum, and this is before the budget reconciliation bill. This is the budget resolution. Okay, so there's a whole process, and this is going to take probably a month to 2 months to really get going. But you got to have the whole process. So he's saying all we got to do is just leave town. Just do what our Democratic friends in Texas did, and they left Texas, went up to Washington, which I think it was like 2 or 3 of them actually contracted COVID on the way, right? So another issue there. But a lot of them were in the plane without a mask, right? But yet when we get on a plane, us normal people, right, us peasants, we have to wear a mask, right? And that's what a lot of people are saying is, why are lawmakers treated so much different than the American people who voted them into office? And let me ask you this, because when I saw this picture, okay, when I saw that picture of those the Texas Democrats, flying up to Washington, D.C. to simply just block the vote, right? When I saw this and nobody was wearing a mask. And then I remember, you know what? When you fly on a plane, everybody has to wear a mask. Everybody has to wear a mask. What's the difference, right? If you're tired of seeing these lawmakers, it doesn't matter what state, that they have different rules than you and I. Let me know down in the comment section below. What is one thing you wish you could do that lawmakers have been doing lately? What have they been doing lately that we can't do yet because they say it's not safe? We gotta stick to the mask mandates. We gotta do all these other things. Let me know down in the comment section below. I'd be curious to see what you guys are seeing in your states or in your cities. Now, as I know more regarding this infrastructure package and the latest news and updates here, I promise I will fill you in on those updates as well. But let's get into the eviction and housing issue, or crisis. As the CDC eviction moratorium ends, which is going to happen in 13 days, okay? On July 31st, the CDC eviction moratorium on the federal level expires. So on August 1st, we will see the eviction crisis could begin. Now, some states have already gone above and beyond and extended this for their state specifically, but not all states have done this. Many housing experts currently worry that housing costs will go up. This is the big issue right now. It's not that, oh, all these people are going to be evicted and they won't be able to find homes. No, that's not the case. Because just because you are evicted, there's still a chance you can go get a different home. You can go and get a different apartment, right? You may have to put more money down. You may have to, have a larger security deposit, right? You may have all these other things that are put in place to kind of block you. But you can get over those hurdles and you can find a new apartment. Well, experts anticipate landlords are going to raise rents in order to make back what they missed out on over this past year or more. So, just to give you an idea, there are actually a few reports across the United States where some rents are actually increasing more than 35%. And they're going to increase on August 1st. So the CDC eviction moratorium ends, and the next day, bam, you are hit with a 35% increase. That means, let's say your rent is $2,000. A 35% increase is $700. You're going to have to pay $700 additionally. So $2,000 month rent now jumps up to $2,750. That's insane. Or $1,000 rent per month would jump up to $1,350. That's more than most people are willing to make as an additional payment. And this isn't just to get you caught up. This is what many landlords are requesting for new tenants. Because the landlord missed out on so many payments, they are now pushing that cost over to the new tenant, which could potentially be you. So this is very concerning. I've actually received a few comments here in the community from people saying that their rents are going to go up by a couple $100 beginning August 1st as well. However, they don't have any other option, so they will continue to stay in their apartment, yet they will have to pay a higher rent. Now, I actually reached out to one of the people in the community, I think her name was Heather, and she said, and I simply wanted to inquire about why she is staying, if her landlord's allowing her to stay. Well, here's the thing. She was not behind on rent. Okay, get this, because this is huge. She was not behind on rent. She lives in an apartment building with, I think it was like 16 or 20 different apartments. She lives in this big building. Well, she was one of the tenants that was never behind on rent. However, the landlord is now raising everybody's rent in order to make up for the people that were behind on rent. Now, I don't know how many people that was. I didn't ask. That's really none of my business. But there were certain tenants that were behind on rent, and now the people that were paying this entire time, their rent is going up as well. How fair is that? Now, as a landlord, I think, yes, it's the landlord's obligation, or it's their job or whatever. If they want to do it, okay, they can. It's up to them. It's their building. It's their business. But is that really fair? I don't know. Just curious what your thoughts are. You can put your comments down in the comment section below. But here's something I thought was interesting. According to the National Equity Atlas, they are saying that nearly 6.4 million households are currently behind on rent. The rent is estimated to be right about $23 billion. But remember, the bills that have passed over the past 7 months now, these bills have actually provided about $50 billion for rental assistance. Well, 65% of those renters are people of color. 81% of them have an income below $50,000 per year, and 50% of them are currently unemployed. So half of the renters are unemployed, 65% of them are people of color, and they're behind by about $23 billion. Well, if somebody does not have an income because they are unemployed, it's going to make it very hard to pay any rent. So we'll see what happens there. But let's get into what's going on regarding the unemployment numbers, because according to Bloomberg, the reason why our unemployment numbers keep on increasing is not because people keep getting laid off. That's not the true reason why. That is a partial reason why, but that's not the big reason. The big reason why is because people that are workers that were previously looking for jobs, then they decided, you know what, there's no jobs out there, nobody's hiring during a pandemic, so I'm just gonna wait, right? Well, according to Bloomberg, all these people stopped looking for jobs because nobody was hiring. Well, then these people all decided to come back and start looking for work. And that is where all these new workers coming back into the workforce, that is where these numbers are starting to trickle up. So the good news is that more people are looking for work, but the bad news right now is that being that more people are looking for work, the jobs that are out there didn't increase, the jobs stayed the same, but the amount of people looking for work is starting to increase as well. So the issue right now, and this is good news, is that there are more people looking for work, which means the unemployment rate will drop. The problem is some of these numbers aren't 100% correct. So just keep in mind, as more people look for work, if you are one of those people, get out there, look for a job soon, because as more people start to look, the amount of jobs actually available will start to shrink. And as those jobs start to shrink and there's less opportunity, you could potentially be one of those few that don't have a job moving forward. So I don't want you going into September without a job, because the unemployment benefits on the federal level expire on September 6th. So just be aware of that. Now, according to the multiple reports, the White House does have a way to solve the rental crisis. Now, it has nothing to do with jobs, okay? It doesn't, but they do say that right now people with jobs are going to be, it's going to be easier for somebody with a job to actually pay back their rent. And so right now, that is what is needed. Right now, the White House says that they are demanding that the rental assistance money goes out to the people that desperately need it, and it needs to go out in a hurry. And just last week, White House Senior Advisor Gene Sperling, he said, and I quote, "We are asking our states and local governments to do everything they can to fill that void in a hurry. Some are ramping up admirably, some are lagging, but we all have to do better." But that is the key. Will the money get sent out soon enough? Will people be evicted before the money actually reaches the landlord? That's a big question. That's a huge concern. Some say the money might arrive in time for landlords to not evict their tenant. However, there is a good possibility, and this is where states really come in. If the state tells the landlord, yes, we are sending your check, you're gonna get it within a week. Well, if the landlord doesn't get the check, can they evict the tenant? Well, that's up to the state. And that would be a huge, huge loss if states are just so slow and just so overwhelmed that so many people get evicted because they are just behind. That's not something we want to see. Now, let's talk about the large boost to Social Security. Okay, this is something I've been talking about over the past few videos, and there's a reason for this. We are starting to see the reports where people on Social Security are being left behind. They're pretty much being dismissed because they're going to come in for a huge windfall, according to some. Now, I would not say $100 monthly boost to your Social Security benefits is a huge windfall. I just wouldn't say that. Even if it was $1,000, I don't think I'd say that. If maybe you want $1 million, yes, that would be true, but not in this instance. Here in a recent report, what we are hearing is that a handful of groups for senior citizens are estimating that the cost of living adjustment, or COLA, will be at least 6%, and many say it's going to be between 6.1 and 6.5%. If you remember earlier on this week, I stated if the cost of living adjustment jumps to 6.5% for 2022, that means the average Social Security beneficiary would actually receive about $101 per month boost. That's substantial. It's not life-changing. You can't go and buy a house. You can't go and pay for a nice lavish vacation, but you could pay for the essentials. You can buy food. You can pay for medications that are keeping you alive. This is what some are saying, is that if we see increases to inflation over the next couple of months, which some are anticipating, we are most likely going to be in for about a 6.1 to 6.5% cost of living adjustment, which would be substantial. But at the same time we're hearing all this from economists, they're saying that Social Security recipients must maintain their spending. And here's a warning from multiple economists and a few financial advisors. They say, don't overspend or lock yourself into monthly payments. One of the worst things that a person can do that is on a fixed income is to lock themselves in to a year-long or more payment for any product or service. And this is something that I've told many people over the past year is, let's say you're paying for Hulu, let's say you're paying for Netflix, Amazon Prime, maybe even HBO Max, right? Just 4 different online video streaming services. Okay, great. Well, let's say everyone's $10 a month. Now, I don't know exactly how much they are. I do have a few of these. Okay, I pay for them. I don't know what they cost. My wife is the one that just buys them, and we don't have other television, right? We barely watch TV. But I know we have Hulu, Netflix, and Amazon Prime. I do have an Amazon Prime account with my business. So we have those 3. And what I can tell you is, let's say they're all cost $10. And again, if you guys know the exact amount, let me know down in the comment section below. Obviously, by the time you watch it, I probably would have Googled this and found out myself. But let's say they're all $10. If you're paying $10 for all these 3 of these services every single month, that's $30. At the end of the year, that's $360 you paid for streaming services over the course of a year. This is one of the reasons why experts say don't lock yourself into a monthly payment. Because if this is something that you can't cancel, and I believe you can, but let's say it's something you can't cancel, that turns into a huge issue, because if your income is starting to somewhat dwindle, it's not changing, but starting to buy less because of inflation, if these other products are weighing you down and you can't cancel them, well, you still got to pay them. So that's why, keeping yourself flexible and not locking yourself into payments is something that financial experts say is the best thing you can do. So that's what we got for you guys right now. If you have any questions whatsoever, please ask your questions down in the comment section below. Just want to thank you guys for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your Sunday afternoon and Sunday evening. Consider subscribing so that I can continue to keep you updated on everything that's going on, and I'll see you guys on the next one.